All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about a man who is, without a doubt, one of the greatest military commanders in all of history. I mean, this is a strategist who literally never lost a single battle. His name was Khalid ibn al-Walid.
Now, his story isn't just about battles and conquest, not at all. It's a story about a massive, radical transformation. And that brings us to the core question of this whole explainer, which is just fascinating. How did one of Islam's greatest enemies flip the script and become its greatest champion?
So, to really get this, we have to rewind. We need to look at who Khalid was before he became this legend, back when he was known as the master strategist of Mecca. Okay, so Khalid was born around 592 CE. He wasn't just anybody. He was part of the Banu Makhzum clan. These guys were a big deal in the powerful Quraysh tribe, the one that basically ran Mecca. So you can see how this positioned him right at the heart of the establishment. And yeah, that put him in direct opposition to the new faith of Islam, which he saw as a real threat to everything his people stood for.
And we're not talking about just some random opponent. This guy was brilliant. We first see his military genius really shine at the Battle of Uhud. It was his cavalry maneuver, a perfectly timed flanking move that completely turned the battle around and handed the Muslim army a huge setback. He was, no question, a truly formidable foe.
But then, something changed. And this brings us to the absolute turning point of his entire story. We're talking about a complete change of allegiance.
And this really shows you just how dramatic that shift was. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the guy fighting against the Muslims at major battles like Uhud and the Trench. And then, just a few years later, on the other side, he converts and becomes one of their most important commanders. It's a total 180.
So you've got to ask, why the sudden change? Well, from what we can tell from historical sources, this wasn't some political move or a conversion of convenience. It was a genuine change of heart. It came after he came to recognize, and this is in his own words, the truth and strength of the very message he had been fighting against.
And after he converted, Prophet Muhammad himself gave him a title that would stick with him forever. Saif Allah al-Maslul. That means the unsheathed sword of God. And let me tell you, this was way more than just a cool nickname. It was a total rebranding. It meant that his unbelievable skill in battle was now considered an instrument of God's will.
So, armed with this powerful new title and a new purpose, Khalid was ready to go. He was about to unleash his strategic genius, but this time not against the Muslims, but for them. He was about to help forge an empire. His very first big test as a Muslim commander came at the Battle of Mu'tah, and things looked bad. I mean, really bad. The Muslim army was completely outnumbered by the Byzantines. They were staring down certain annihilation. But instead of going for some blaze of glory, Khalid did something incredible. He pulled off a brilliant strategic withdrawal that saved the entire army from being wiped out. It just proved his genius wasn't just about attacking. It was about knowing when and how to preserve his forces.
And you know, after Mu'tah, the wins just started stacking up, one after another. Just look at this timeline. He was right there in the middle of the conquest of his own hometown Mecca. He put down massive rebellions during the Ridda Wars. And then, he took on the two global superpowers of the day, the Sasanian Persians in Iraq and the Byzantine Empire in Syria.
But his real masterpiece? That has to be the Battle of Yarmouk. This chart kind of gives you an idea of the odds. The Byzantine army was huge compared to his. I mean, on paper, this should have been an impossible fight. No way they should have won. But Khalid's strategy was just on another level. He didn't just win, he scored a decisive, crushing victory. And here's the key takeaway. Yarmouk wasn't just another win on the scoreboard. This one battle shattered Byzantine power in the region. It secured the entire area of Syria for the growing caliphate. This victory literally changed the map of the world. All these wins, one after the other, bring us to maybe the most unbelievable part of his story. We're talking about his perfect record.
0. That's the number of battles Khalid ibn al-Walid lost in his entire life. Think about that. Over 100 battles, first fighting against the Muslims, then fighting for them, and he was never, not once, defeated. That kind of record is almost unheard of in the history of warfare.
But what happens when a general becomes larger than life, a living legend? Well, to really understand Khalid's complete legacy, we got to look past the battlefield and into his final years.
And there's a surprising twist here. The caliph at the time, Omar, actually removed Khalid from his command.
Now, it wasn't because he messed up or anything, far from it. The real reason was that Omar was worried the soldiers were starting to believe they were winning because of Khalid's genius and not because of God's will. He wanted to stop a personality cult from forming around him. And even after all that, Khalid stayed loyal. And he didn't die in battle as you might expect. He died peacefully in his bed in Syria.
So, when you add it all up, what's his legacy? Well, from a military standpoint, the guy was a peerless genius who never lost. Geopolitically, his wins literally paved the way for a massive empire. But maybe the most powerful part of his story is what he symbolizes, a total transformation from a bitter enemy to a devoted champion, all because of his conviction. And that kind of leaves us with a big question to think about, right? What really makes a great leader? Is it just about having a perfect, undefeated record? Or is it more about the cause you choose, the purpose you decide to serve with all that talent? The life of Khalid ibn al-Walid really makes you think about both sides of that coin.